all the way from the Netherlands, so I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more. Thanks, Jos.
Okay, audio? Yep, that should work. I'll be walking about quite a bit, because that's what I like to do. I'm Jos Weyers. I'm going to talk about impressioning, and I'm a member of Hack 42, which is a hackerspace in Ireland, also a hackerspace in Ireland. And those are actually not my words, those are the words from Hackaday. They took a tour through Europe to look at hackerspaces, and when they saw this, they said it was awesome. So, you agree with that. Furthermore, this is one of my brainchilds. It's a Beehive Corporate Tech Campus, where that's a foundation that's currently in progress of purchasing this awesome piece of real estate to turn it into an international hacker hub. That's not why I'm here. I'm a member of TOOL, which is the open organization of lockpickers, which is the original tool. It's not the US part, but it's from the Netherlands. We founded, Barry Wells founded this basically after SSDev did the hack to turn it into a sports group to make it able to carry picks without getting arrested, shot, or whatever. Okay, I'm going to assume that you know how to pick, because, well, that's the reason you're probably here. But still, I'm going to explain in quite layman terms what picking is, because I want to explain why impressioning works, and the reason why impressioning works happens to be the same reasons why picking works. So yes, it'll feel like kindergarten for a couple of minutes. Sorry about that, we'll get through it. Okay. If you want to open a lock, we first have to figure out what the lock is. Well, surprise, surprise, this is a lock. And as a sports picker, I don't care which way it opens. If it's left or right, I don't care. And so basically, if the round bit turns, then we consider it open. Schematically, that's a round bit that should turn, has a hole in it, and if you look into the hole, you see something. If we take an MRI of this, so we layer a bit of material off, it looks a bit like this. And now we see, if we start turning this lock, why it won't open, because there's a bit of glue in the way. There should be movement now. See? That doesn't work. So the way to open this is push down the red bits to shear line, and then it will open. Okay? Like I said, basic. But this, of course, well, this is a one-pin lock, and that's not really a lock. So a normal lock would be 5-ish. And so now you have 5 bits preventing it from turning. So there's 5 blue bits in the way. And in order to open this, you have to push down all the bits to the correct depth. And there's a special tool for that, called a key. And then it opens. And if this is off on even one position, that's too deep, and that's too high, it won't work. Okay. So, if we don't have a key, and with normal picking we don't, how do we do that? Because there's 5 bits preventing it from turning. And if you go in with 5 picks to put them all down, that shouldn't fit. I mean, that's some American locks that might fit, but we don't really want them. So the idea is that if you start turning these locks, there are 5 bits preventing it from turning. And that's not really true, because in the real world we have a crack like this. These pins are supposed to be cylindrical, and if you look at these edges, they're supposed to be straight. Those are supposed to be 90-degree angles, but they clearly aren't. I mean, that's manufacturer error, that can be wear and tear, and well, actually you can see that this is crap. But even if you can't, I mean, you cannot make 2 metal objects alike. You can make them look alike, but if you zoom in enough, there's always a difference. That could be on a monocular level or whatever. It doesn't matter how far you need to zoom in, but there will be a difference. So even if these pins look exactly the same, if you look at them close enough, one will be wider or smaller or fatter or whatever. They will not be absolutely identical. That means that if I start turning this cylinder, there's not 5 bits preventing it from turning, but there's 1 bit preventing it from turning first. If I start rotating this cylinder, there's 1 bit of metal that will get stuck before the other ones do. Yes? So what we can do now is look at that one pin state. That's the one that gets stuck first. And then we're back to this slide all of a sudden. So if you start turning it, it won't, because there's something in the way. And if we slowly turn it, put some pressure on this, turn it down, go. The cylinder will turn ever so slightly. And with some luck, at this point, with some luck, it will stay on this ledge. So that enables us to do actual picking. So we start off with a lock, 5 pins, put some turning force on it, go in with the finger, and that's just springs, that's just springs, that's a spring that doesn't want to go down, so that's going to be pushed down, and rinse and repeat. We keep on finding out which pin is binding, and push that or lift that to the correct level. And that's basically it. That's lockpicking. You guys probably knew that. Yes? Okay. Of course, you can break that. Yeah, sure, let's go. And then there's Mr. Newton. Mr. Newton did stuff. Because what happens if the white ball hits the red ball?
2 goes.
Sorry?
The number 2 goes.
Yes. What happens with number 3?
Stays where it is.
Stays. And to prove that scientifically, we have an animation. Correct, sir. That's of course, well, that's Jesus, that's fast. Okay, it's weird. Those colors were not shown on the chairs, of course, because if we can get in with a apparatus and hit all the pins at the same time, they'll start behaving like billiard balls, and so the red one stays, the blue one shoots off, and at the correct, now it's open. So if you time it correctly, that'll work. And of course, I mean, there are tools for that. You have bumper big guns. But, well, it's called a gun. It looks like a gun, especially on an X-ray. So getting through customs is interesting. If you want it faster than that, you can have, but then that's a vibrating rod. So let's get to the other questions. So what if we can get into a lock with something else that doesn't look weird and stupid, and it has to touch all the pins, of course, because otherwise we can't hit those. Well, there's a key for that. Key for that. If you take a key and cut it down to the lowest possible cut, so normally we call that a 9, so that's a 9 key, which is also fun if you tell it to a German. And you have to take a bit off the shoulder, otherwise it can't move. So you see there's slack in there. So if you push that key, it goes down a bit. So there's some movement there. If you whack that key hard enough, there we go. Bang! Forces neutralize and stuff moves. And if you turn that lock at the correct second, split second, then it's open. So that's an open lock. Okay, this was basic lockpicking. Probably all knew this. But the talk is called something wrong with this. The talk is called impressioning. So let's figure out what that is. Well, impressioning. The big question is, how long can I be in front of your server room, or front door, or other important door, without getting shot, harassed, arrested, dragged off, whatever, insulted maybe? Is that 2 seconds? Will I be dragged off within 2 seconds? Probably not. Can I be in a minute? Can I be at your door in a minute? 10? Can I be in front of your server room door doing stuff for 10 minutes? Well, if the answer is 10 minutes, I think we have other problems. Suppose it's the 2 seconds, because I'm pretty sure I will not get arrested within 2 seconds. Especially if I'm on the phone and I walk out of the front door and I move off. That won't get me arrested. But if I do that twice a day for about a week, will that get me arrested? Will you guys notice? Will that show up in your SIEM system, in any logs? Will people freak out about it?
Will if you're wearing a kilt?
if I change colors, will it? That's a totally different guy. Mind you, it doesn't have to be the same guy all over the time. So, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Because why is this important? Well, if you take a blank key and put it in the lock, something.
Pull the cap back on.
It's a cute thing.
Kills the RFID blocker.
Okay, if you put an uncut key into a lock, stuff happens. Because now the blue bits are not preventing this lock from turning, because there's a hunk of metal in the way, so it's all lifted up. So now the red bits are preventing it from turning. But the same principle applies. If we start turning this key now, then there's one bit of red material that's preventing it from turning first. So, and if you turn it the other way, which now we can do, with lockpicking you can't because everything will fall back, but now everything is held up by the key, so you can move both sides. With some luck, another pin is preventing it from turning to the other side. So, and if you put an uncut key into a lock, there's play. You can still move your key about a bit. And if it would be a completely snug fit, then it would be quite hard to fit in. Especially after a long night drinkies, that just would not fit. Well, it would fit, but it's hard to squeeze in. So there is play, and well, there's wear and tear. So what you can do now, if you take this key, it's possible to move that key up and down. If you do that while turning the key, so first you turn the key, so one pin is binding, and then move your key up and down. On position 1, 3, and 5, the only thing you're pushing up is that spring. Well, and a bit of gravity, but that's negligible. But on position 2 and 4, that pin doesn't want to go up because it's pushed to the side. So the force at this point is considerably higher than on that point. Does that make sense? So what happens if you do this a couple of times and you look at the key up close, you will see marks at the spots where there was more pressure on the key. So, and that looks a bit like this. The results might vary. You might need some magnification aid and some illumination to actually figure it out. Top picture is UV lit. Some people like that. I happen to be not one of those people, but some people do. And what you do, you figure out where those spots are that you just created, and on those particular spots you take off a bit of material. Well, might be scientific value a bit. How much? Well, it depends. I mean, if you know your brand and model of your lock, you can get online and figure out what the possible depths are. And of course, well, then you can use calipers to figure out how deep you can go. Okay, well, now that's not a working key by far. So we rinse and repeat. You put that same key in again and start turning. So nothing really changed that much. So that key is, that pin stack is still binding, so that will mark. So is that one, that will mark. So if we look at the key after the wiggling, there will be marks in the values we just created. And those will look a bit like this. Okay, we'll get to that, hopefully. And what we do then, you see the marks in the values we just created, we take off even more material. Okay, rinse and repeat. This will take a long while. What happens if you start turning now is on this position, that pin stack is on the correct depth. So that won't mark. So, because this pin stack is not the pin stack that's preventing it from turning in any direction. Because this key, this lock is open. So we have a 20% open lock, ish. So with some luck, another pin stack will preventing it from turning. So because this position, nothing changed, so that's still marking. and there's a new one. So, and that looks a bit like this. And with some luck, this is the original key. This is the key that I got. And it looks a bit weird because I use a round file. Well, I use rectangle, but which is round. So it looks weird, but if you look at the important bits, I mean the bits where your pins are actually touching your key, it works. Right? So this is a working key. And if you're any good at this, you win. And now it's time for a demo.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Actually, what, 37 seconds?
I don't know. So we want yes. This one should be, yeah. Then you could have to that one. If I'm standing here. Yes. Looks weird now. In a better way. Okay. We have a blank key in a holder. Let's see if we can show you what a blank key looks like. Sounds stupid, but that's. Okay. This is stupid. Wow. Okay. It's never before. Okay, let's just move it closer. See, there's a bit of a lunar.
Focus.
Well, yeah. We do this 2 minutes ago.
This is focused.
Come on. That's a drag on. Well, you can see, hopefully, that the edge of this key is kind of rough. It's a bit of a lunar surface. And if you want to find very tiny marks on that, that's going to be hard. So what I do, I cheat a bit because I can. This is the same brand and type of lock as the one I'm going to attack. It's an Abus, and Jos Weyers, a tool manufacturer, he made this. Basically what he did, he took a core and dumped all the pins and put some drill bits in there, some hard steel drill bits. What you can do then is put your key in, turn it a bit, and this will make marks at the spot where the pins are supposed to be. Let's see if this happens. I'm going to move it closer and closer. I just hope that when it's in focus, see, that's quite easy. Okay, so that's at those spots. I'm going to take off some material, so I get a nice, smooth, round surface. Thank you. Still not touching the lock. Okay. At the end of now.
No, he didn't go.
Well, it's here. Okay. There you go. Okay. So you're not seeing that lunar surface anymore. Angle the bits, there's some different lights. Does that make sense? So the top of the screen is the top of the key. And what I did, I made a smooth surface instead of the lunar surface. And that might enable us to see the tiny marks better. Okay. Key in lock. Two. Start turning it to one side. Jiggle it up down. The other side. Now, we'll beat this a couple of times, get some nice fat marks. And okay, let's see.
Who's Abbott, who's consultant?
Okay. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Position number one, not completely in the middle. There it is. There's another one which I'm not going to show you guys, but it's going to be, let's see. So we need some, to look at it from up close, you can have magnification aids and probably some lights. And this helps. So I see something on position number one. During competition, you don't have this much time. We'll see what happens. Right. That's a marker number 3 and number 1. So, it's rinse and repeat. You want to use a workbench because then your height is all set. It's not a brilliant one, but it's mine. So I know what the faults are. Well, I didn't start off with a very neat file, with a very neat blank. If you make your cuts, it's important to stay consistent. So keep your spacings at correct depth, at the correct space, and try to get your cuts to the correct depth. Because the neater you work, the easier it gets. We'll see how far we get this. Before. Of course, while doing this, stuff like maximum adjacent cuts are out of the window because yeah, you're not allowed to put a 1 next to a 9. But of course, if the actual cut would be a 9 and a 9, if one of those won't mark until the end, then you end up with a 1 next to a 9. Technically, you could start filing that down because, well, you know it can't exist in the real world. But then again, are you actually going to take that risk? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. For some people, that does. Also on that one.
We're going to feedback on the mic on this now.
Hello.
It's not annoying at all.
This is so trippy.
This being an Atlas, I know that it has science. I know that it has a couple of security pins, and that actually can be helpful if you're fucking up, which is basically what I'm doing right now. So what happens if a couple of pins are at the collect level and you overfile to a couple of others? Then, same as with picking, sometimes you get a keep, that we call it false set. And that's what's happening now. So there's a bit more playing on, and that tells me that I overfiled some at some position. Don't know which one, but so scratch that one. And rinse and repeat, start over. I'll do that. I'll try to be a bit neater this time and figure out how we go. Neatness is out of the window.
Is there anything you can carry forward from the previous one that you messed up or not?
The question is, did I learn anything from the previous key? Sometimes you do. In this case, no. Sometimes you go like, oh, I'm pretty convinced about that one particular thing. But no, not in this. So I mean, you're putting quite some considerable stress on your key. So especially if you keep on overdoing this, the wiggling, because it's quite soft material. So at some point, your key will have the tendency to break. And of course, you don't want a broken out key in your lock. So what you can do then is also start over again. But if you're quite convinced about what you're having at that moment, you could just duplicate that on your new blade. Dodgy.
How long have you been doing impressioning?
8 years, something like that. That's I'm going to take a different view because that's. The neater you start, the better it is, and this is just a recipe thing. Yes, killing puppies. Which repeats. mind you, there are competitions doing this. And normally the first round takes an hour. And during that hour, about half of the field opens. So that could be quite a long story. And we have a little key. Okay. It's called work, right? Okay. This is not a new technique. And this is an old reference, not the oldest one, but it's a nice one. I've been giving this talk for quite some time now, in various forms. And at DEF CON, I asked the audience if anybody knew this guy, Tickle. Tickle was the FBI's NDE guy, non-destructive entry. And what he did quite a lot of stuff, but he also was known for impressioning. At his first assignment, they wanted to plant some bugs in the house of a mafia boss. So they put Ed in a cardboard box, and not like a refrigerator box, and they delivered Ed next to the door of where he had to break in basically. There was a hole in the box, and he just stick his key out and follow a bit. And overnight, he produced a key. So in the morning, they picked up the box with Ed in it and a working key. Probably needed a new shirt then, not unlike me. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. So I really wanted to pick this guy's brain. And at some point on my Facebook, I got a request from a guy named Tickle, and that turned out to be his son, telling me that Ed died in March 2012. And a lot of his knowledge he passed on to his son, except the impressioning. So this guy asked me if I could teach him impressioning, and well, he was in the US, I was in Europe, and so at some point, 2 years later, something like that, I had a workshop in Los Angeles, and they basically flew over from, I don't know where they were in the US, and we did that, we did a workshop with him and his mother, and they both opened. That was a good moment. So yeah, if you want to learn this, it helps to have visual aids. This is a book by Oliver Dietrichson. So it's like I said, it's not new, but Ollie took quite a while to make this book and to actually look at what's going on and why does it work. Well, it's called Impressioning. This is the German version. There is a English version of it, but that doesn't really matter because it's about the pictures. And it has very good close-ups, and you can see it also works on dimple keys. Because a dimple key is basically a pin stack that moves on. And initially we tried to make those depths with a Dremel tool, but that's messy and it's hard to scale. So then we figured out if you file across the key, it looks like a charm. And actually it looks funny, but I mean, dimple keys are normally very easy to impress. That's quite cool. Yes, you will have to do it on the sides as well, but well, same principle applies. And the book even has pictures by the Kriminalischen Prüflabor, which is basically CSI in German. Okay, in order to do this you need some stuff. Like calipers really help. I mean, if you're not sure if your depths are good, then well, stuff takes longer. I really like this screw pin because it kind of wraps around your key, so and you can just visually look where you're going. But of course, a normal caliper definitely works. Files. I prefer a red tip, and I know a couple of locksmiths who say, oh, it has to be a pivot. Well, sorry, I mean, whatever. I understand that a locksmith, and with a pivot file you can make all the things, because you guys who don't know, a pivot is a drop shape instead of round. So you can make the ledges, you can make beautiful. And with a round file you can only make round forms. But as a speed depressioner, if I just grab my file, I don't want to align it, so it has to hold it this way. And because it's round, I don't have that hold. So I go for a round file. Coarseness, Swiss cut number 4 seems to be the good minimum. And because if it's too smooth, then you'll get, if it's too fine, you'll get a very shiny surface. And on a very shiny surface, you'll probably see the marks, even if they're quite tiny. But if you shine a light on that, because sometimes you need a light, then you'll blind it at that particular spot, so that won't enable you to open also. And of course, if it's too coarse, then you still won't be seeing tiny marks, because, well, this is the mark or not. You saw me putting quite some force on that lock, and for that you need to mount it quite sturdy. This might do, but I mean, if I take that through customs, I can't take anything else weight-wise. So I use Monfrotto super clamps, which are basically theater clamps, so they're probably hanging here as well. But they look awesome, are quite light, and do the trick. Of course, the door might do as well, but well, customs. Okay, weird questions. This witness. Keys. You need keys, and you're gonna break a shitload of them while training, which is a good thing. Because suppose you're into car racing and you're racing your car. If you never skid out a track, you don't know where the edge is, right? I mean, because speed racing is going as close to crashing without crashing, basically. Because if you take the safe route, then you're not going to be fastest. So knowing when a key breaks is final information. Because the more pressure you put on your key, the better your marks will be, right? But of course, the more pressure you put on your key, the easier it'll break. So there's a balance you have to find. And well, if you don't know when your key will break, then you'll never find that balance at the most optimal level. So, of course, you need a key that fits into your lock. So getting the brands correct is useful. I got a couple of times I get questions like, if we take softer keys, will they mark easier? Of course. If you take a very soft key, the marks will be quite easy. The marks will be stupid obvious. But of course, it'll break way easier. Or it will shear or whatever. And so if you're impressioning with nickel silver or steel, then those won't break. Yeah, sure, but they won't mark either. So it's, yeah, and it turned out that brass keys that come from the factory are actually the good and the good middle ground to actually meet. Like I said, you need probably some magnification and some illumination. This is a nice add-on on a typical mag light that you saw me use. Normally in competition I use a very cheapo hobby light with a lens in it. This is a light pod that's actually a brilliant idea. It's stupidly made. But the idea is good. What it is, I mean, you see a port here that you can put your key in. You can actually turn it and swerve it in different directions. At the back, there's a couple of switches that you can switch from normal light, UV light, yellow light, whatever, and you can mix and match. And there's a port here that has a lens in it. So the idea is to be stupid portable. So you just go in the door and you're not flooding everything with the light. So the idea is brilliant, but I mean, it needs some alterations. One of the things was this seal is made by rubber. And of course, if you're halfway through impressioning the lock, some of the edges are quite sharp. So if you take your key in and out a couple of times with a rubber shield, that's going to be messy, because it'll just tear up the rubber. And then you get black spots all over your key. You go, is that a mark? Is that not a mark? So taking those off, put brushes in, that's also helpful. You will, I've seen some people do this by hand, so you put quite some considerable force on your key. For that I use a grip. And a vice grip, some people say if you start training just use a vice grip. Well, yes and no. I mean, a vice grip, yes, it's cheap and you probably have it laying about. But if you look at this, it's one shape. So if I turn this, the turning motion is in the same plane as the key. If it's a vice grip and I have to operate it that, you're probably going to jiggle your key in ways that it shouldn't. And as these keys are bound to break as it is, any weird motion you want to eliminate before that. So having a grip that actually works is quite useful. Mine is made by Jos Weyers, and I believe he does sell them. They're not cheap, but they're good. ProLock has some handles that are also quite good, and they're very light and they're not as expensive. So definitely get some gear, and that makes life very quite considerably easier. One of the aids I also use is I took a core of an Atlas, because most European games are on Atlas locks, and I just very coarsely cut it down. So what that enables me to do is if you put a key in there, you can see where the marks are supposed to show up. So if there's a mark because I did something wrong in my file, and it's not in a position where a pin should be, then I know that's not a mark. So it's a cheat sheet to figure out where the mark should appear. And if there's only 5 spots, it's either there, or there, you go, no, that's a yes. So it's quite easier to get the show on the road. The other tool you saw me using before was the KES tool by Jos Weyers. And it's, you see here, this is what the key looks like before it works and with the dents in it afterwards. So then I know where to start preparing my first 111 key basically. And if you want to be stupid mobile, you tiny microscope thingy with a light and a Goblet number 4 cut file, which is a half. This is not a round one, but it's quite tiny. So this is basically what you need and a grip to be mobile. And then that's it. And that's me. Any questions? So there's more info. Slides will be online at some point, I believe. Questions anywhere? There. Hold on.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do you go about finding blanks for cylinders that don't actually have labels or company names on them?
Okay. As a sports lock picker, I don't have that problem because I know that I'm bought. And especially if we have a competition, we just phone up the very friendly guys from Atlas and say, give, and that happens. But yeah, I do understand what you mean. It's hard. So it's mix and match and try to figure out. I've seen people order stuff on eBay And so have some tryout keys on you, something like that. You just have a collection of keys. I mean, Barry, he started a door opening service quite some time ago, and he tries to use impressioning wherever possible. So he shows up to a door with no prior knowledge whatsoever, and he just has a massive bag of an assortment of keys. And he just fits, that fits, and he starts firing, which is awesome. But yeah, there's definitely potential of fail, as I so happily illustrated. Any more questions? Yeah, that's copy.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Do you make any tools?
I'm not a tool maker, so
You have your own tools.
no. Jos Weyers is my go-to tool maker, as you already saw. Well, the filed-off core, that was my invention, and I done that myself. And as you can see, it's done so crudely that, but it still works. I mean, so yeah, it doesn't all have to be high-tech, but it sure has to look good. Thank you for the question. There were more. I mean, Jesus.
Have you tried ink?
Ink, yes.
Exercise the marks?
Yes, I did. I hate it. Some people swear by it and they love it. So if you get a good result by it, we might yes do this. It's same as with UV ink and soot and whatever you have. The problem is, yes, marks will show up better. But then if you're repeating and repeating this process, halfway through your key, there will be stuff everywhere. There will be soot or ink, whatever will be in your lock. So if you take the key out, there's spots everywhere. That's confusing as hell. So I've had guys, these guys will start. So at some point, if they start filing it, they use a bit of sandblast, just make it very dull. And after that, marks just show up magically. But yeah, introducing more material in your lock, for me, no, it doesn't work for me. But well, if it works for you, try it. So a lot of people swear by it, I'm just not one of those people. There were more questions.
What's the most common mistake people make when they're learning?
When try to be as fast as possible. So consistency is key. So working neatly and keeping a clean work area, and by that I mean the surface of the key, is in essence what you're doing. So if you know how to dial in one possible depth, that will speed up considerably. But first, make sure you can open. So work slowly and work precisely. So working precisely and neatly is the key to do. I mean, sure, you'll break keys, but you care. Doesn't matter. I mean, but working precisely and consistency, that's basically what it's all about. And of course, that's the problem, because in a competition, you want to be as fast as humanly possible. But then you're getting sloppy. So it's a balance, but that's the sport. So thank you.
Question over here. Just wondering about if there's been any attempts to, I'm imagining spring tension in each of the pins would be something that you'd be able to measure with a special tool, and each pin would have a different tension.
What the spring tension? Okay.
So with the pins,
yeah.
So there's a spring above them that's pushing them down.
Yeah, but that hardly matters, because if I turn it, the pin that's stuck will not want to move at all.
But without actually turning it, just with the default, like it's.
I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure there will be locksmiths in the room that can tell you.
Balance pin stacks fuck this up too.
Okay. No idea what you just said, but apparently that makes sense. Thank you.
The tool you had shown at the beginning that looks a lot like a vernier caliper but isn't, it's sort of halfway between a micrometer and a caliper.
Yeah.
What is that? What's it called?
This one?
Yeah.
This is a Poco 2F from Brooklyn. It's stupid expensive. They're quite hard to get, so. But yeah, I like this.
I'll just add something to the room. You can buy on eBay a knockoff Mitutoyo thickness gauge, accurate to 2 decimal places per millimeter, 10 millimeter range. It's basically $10 equivalent of that.
Like dial indicator style?
Digital reader.
Okay.
They work really well. Spend the extra money on the metal tip one and then grind them into a V point. So you have a flat anvil and a V point, and it's perfect.
Thank you.
Actually, the fun part about this one, I mean, if you can't find a knockoff, by all means go for it. I mean, even, I don't care if it's accurate or not. Because suppose, I mean, if it says 8, if there's a 7 there, I don't care. Because what I did was just draw a line where the possible depths are. So if I go, yes, that's a cut, I don't even know which cut. I don't care, it's a cut, and then I have to go to the next line. So that's the way I train. Make sense? Any more questions? I saw more hands at some point. There's one over there. Microphone coming.
I was just wondering if you've had any success doing this with a bylock key, because I've had quite a lot of difficulties trying to do that in the past. I was wondering if you had any tips that you could share.
Bylock, that's basically the folded one that you
Yeah, that's right, so
yeah.
2 rails.
I know people's done that, but as I primarily focus on competition, in Europe I do others, mostly of the time, and in America I do slates, because that's what the competition is all about. Every now and then I do a different lock, but I didn't do my research on that much. So I only did a complete study of it, and other people are more into that. I'm speed on that particular lock, that's mine. I'm basically a one-trick pony. Quite good at that one trick. Nope, just get them up.
Cool. Thank you very much. So we're going to take a 5-minute break as usual.